Alrighty, time to come back from hiatus. If you are looking for a book review on Red Rising by Pierce Brown, you're definitely in the right place. That is why I am donning the red. I know that this look is very similar to the one that I wore for A Court of Thorns and Roses because I was embodying Amarantha, and the description of her outfit in one of the scenes was red with gold, but it was so much more appropriate red with gold with this storyline. So I did an overall theme of mainly red and a little bit of accenting of gold on top, which is very symbolic of the book if you've read it. So this is gonna go a little bit faster, and I'm gonna have all the sections of my traditional book reviews in this one video, and I'm going to put in the description below where you can jump to in the time signature if you want to skip the spoiler-free stuff and go straight into the spoilery part of the review. So all that's down below in the description. So, little quick synopsis. We follow a character named Darrow who is part of the Reds in his society. Reds are pretty much the lowest you can be as far as hierarchy of society goes. So basically, if you are a Red, you're basically a slave laborer, but you don't really know that you are. So in this society, Darrow and his people actually think that they are colonizing Mars. So they think that they are actually building a foundation for humanity to move and to colonize Mars. And the government is manipulating them into giving this basically free labor and devoted servitude to this noble cause they think they're pursuing, when in reality, they're not doing quite as much as they think they are. And that is why it's called Red Rising, because we are following a red. And then you go up between like blues and then obsidians. Then there's of course the silvers and bronze, and then gold being of course the ultimate and highest ranking position you can have in this society. In this society, you are born into whichever color you are, and you stay that color for your entire life. So there is no room for growth as far as jumping from color to color. We follow Darrow as he actually learns about his own society that he lives in, and how he plans on essentially debunking and overthrowing the government. My spoiler-free opinions on this book. I loved it. We read it for my book club in January. It was our January read, and I am now on the second book, and I am loving the second book. This is one of the best young adult picks that we've had or that I've read this year. I love the characters. I know it's technically young adult, but Pierce Brown writes with such a mature, he writes with the assumption that young adults are smart and intelligent and understand deeper consequences. Great vocabulary words in this book. And it's not shy when it comes to death and when it comes to, I guess, interpersonal relationships. There are no sex scenes. There are alluded sex scenes as far as like, you know, and then he laid her down and then cut next chapter. I'm not sure if this frame is the same as the last one, but my camera died, so I had to switch batteries. So if you liked the Hunger Games series or the Divergent series, then you will probably also love this series. Now this one, different from those, is in a futuristic society that has reached beyond Earth, so it does include like an element of sci-fi in the sense that a lot of it takes place on different planets and in space with spaceships, which is pretty cool, and a lot of futuristic technology. Like there's spacesuits and grav boots and stuff like that, so it's pretty cool. Pierce Brown did a great job with the government and the society, and the society following its own rules throughout this series. There hasn't been a continuity error that I have run into yet, which I experience a lot in a lot of other books that have such a big governmental structure. The characters in this book are so easy to know, to feel like you know them as people, and to get attached to them or to hate them or to not trust them. He does a really great job of separating their personalities so that they're not all the same person with a different name. I definitely give the characters a 5 out of 5, as well as the story 5 out of 5. And the writing a 5 out of 5. Going into the spoilery part of the book discussion, so if you have not read the book, go no further. Go read the book, come back to this part of the video and join me in the discussion. So for starters, I did not start out enjoying this book only because when it's written in first person, present tense from the main character, and because Darrow is in a society where women are the subservient roles still that we've supposedly moved on from in our current society, feminist in me did not like the way he talked about women or the way that he referenced women, or because he seems to be somebody very follows the status quo of his society. So because society says women are subservient, he kind of just goes with it and he doesn't question it. And neither did it seem that any of the other characters in this book except for Io. I loved that Io was the catalyst for change, that a strong female character who continuously influences the novels, even after she dies, just was a strong and very courageous and very dedicated and you know, stubborn character who was a positive influence. Because Darrow's tearing down the government and the way that it is set up or functions by kind of following the function but also breaking some of the rules, he also is lifting these women up to levels of respect and levels of power that have not traditionally been given to the women in these books. The other women in the book are also very strong and courageous and are not necessarily portrayed as weaker than the men, except for the extreme rape scenes, like where they're not like. The other thing that I had an issue with the writing a little bit later in the book is that Pierce Brown seemed to allude to rape without wanting to say the word rape, and that's part of rape culture to me, where you gotta call it what it is. And it was really irritating me for a long time that he kept alluding to the fact that women were being raped continuously without actually saying the word rape. But eventually he does call it out. It's almost as if the rest of the characters were trying to avoid calling it what it was, and then Darrow eventually accuses the characters of the ones that have raped of rape, and they pay, and the rest of the characters in the book are recognizing that it was rape and that justice needs to be served. I kind of appreciate that, though I don't appreciate that one attempted rapist becomes part of kind of Darrow's inner circle. I'm kind of the opinion, you know, if you're an attempted rapist, you're a rapist. Like, just because you didn't actually get to follow through with the act of raping somebody because of the fact that you would have if you weren't stopped, that makes you a rapist, and that does not makes you deserving of any kind of trust. Like, oh, well, you didn't actually do it, so you're trustworthy. No, that's not how it works. But I will say, now that I've read most of the second book, that all the characters who were formally forgiven for their transgressions definitely got what they deserved. The progression of the book, I think, had to happen in the way that it did, and I think that it was important to emphasize the way that women were being treated in the society that had been set for them, so that way Darrow could come and crush that and lift women up into equal footing with him and with his fellow males in his group and things like that. The characters like Severo and everything like that just stole my heart. I love them so much. Severo especially, I'm very attached to him, and just because he seems like this loyal puppy, and I love dogs, and he just reminds me of the super loyal Howler, of course, you know, like it's the perfect term for that team, the Howlers, and I just thought that was wonderful. I thought the progression of the story went at a good pace, but for some reason this felt like a way bigger novel than it was. Like, I don't know if it was the reading or if it was the typing or what, but it felt like it was a lot longer than it actually was. A lot happened. You have the beginning where you get to know all these characters in the mines, and then Io dies, and then all of a sudden he's swooped up by this this anarchist group where they're just like, hey, you're gonna help us tear down the government, and he's like, sure, for my wife, and then he gets turned into a gold, then he gets thrown into a gold ceremony, then he becomes like the head honcho of the golds, and then he becomes like a freaking destroyer of worlds by like breaking all the rules of this entire setup. It just blew me away that when I finished the book, I felt like I had read the series, but no, the series keeps going. Hey, fun fact, if you don't know this, Pierce Brown has a dog, and her name is Io, which is really cute, and you should follow him on Instagram because he's adorable and has like the best posts ever, especially of his dog. And then of course we have to talk about Pax, because Pax. And what sucks about my knowledge about Pax's death is that, if you don't know this already, and it's been a while since I researched this, so I'm sorry if I'm a little sketchy on some of the details, but essentially, as far as I understand, the way that Pierce Brown chose who was gonna die is he put names in a basket or a hat and pulled them out. And that was the character that had to die, and that's how he decided, because he couldn't make the choice, and so he pulled out Pax's name, and I'm sure he was just as heartbroken as the rest of us were when Pax died. Like, when we talked about this book at my book club, we all could not get over the fact that Pax was dead. Oh my gosh. I love the characters in this book so much. I mean, Darrow is kind of annoying at times, but for the most part I enjoy him, but it's the other characters that I really love, and I love Mustang, and I can't wait to see her more in this second book and hopefully the third book. The other thing that I talked about in my book club is when the classes were brought up and the question was posed to our group, what colors do you think our type of people represent? And somebody immediately said they think that we represent the reds because we are basically slaves, and I was like, I don't know. And the majority of our book club agreed that we're more like the Browns, because the Browns are kind of like a middle class. Like, they can have a job and a home, and they're not starving, but they're not in luxury, but they're also not, you know, struggling to put food on the table type thing. And we had somebody who felt very strongly that we did represent the Reds. And, you know, I pose that question to anybody who watches this. Do you think we're more like the Reds or the Browns, or do you think we're the Golds? I don't want to give too much information about, like, how much money I make or how much money my household makes or anything like that, but I'm pretty well off. I would say that I'm a Brown, maybe, yeah, like I would say Brown. But we did have one member that felt very strongly about being the Red. Being considered a Red, but I do not consider us a Red, because Reds are basically slaves, like actual slaves, like you have no choice in your life slaves. That's a great discussion question, so in the comments below, let me know, what do you think you are classified as? Do you consider yourself more of a Red, or do you consider yourself more of a Brown? Or are you more of like an Obsidian or Gold even? And if you consider yourself Gold, by as far as status goes, do you think you identify with some of the things that the book is trying to say about Gold level? And if in our current society, who would the Golds be? Would it be our president? Would it be the billionaires? Would it be the millionaires? Would it be your boss? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to discuss this a little bit more with you guys. But until my next book review, I will definitely see you guys later. Bye!